right, just give it a few more minutes. Welcome to those joining from sunny and snowy Timmins, Ontario, where I am, to an extended welcome to wherever you are. All right, well, let's get the show on the road. Pardon me just for one moment. All right. I would just like to remind everyone that we've muted your lines, and should you wish to speak or ask a question at the end of the presentation, please enter them in the chat box as we go along. When we've reached the Q&A portion of our session, I'll certainly happily call upon you when we get to that portion of our presentation. Welcome everyone, bonjour tout le monde. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of the lands that we are on this morning, those of the Matagami and Matachwan First Nations within the Treaty 9 territory. Katrina, I'm just going to mute you, I'm sorry. With that, I would like to say that we acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improve our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. The Chamber continues to advocate for Indigenous issues so that Timmins can continue to be partners in walking the path to reconciliation together. With that, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all of the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people from across the region. My name is Cameron Grant, Senior Policy Analyst for the Chamber. The Chamber, along with our proud pillar supporters, are pleased to continue promoting the Reimagined Resiliency series. As regional businesses, organizations, and the support organizations that serve them continue to navigate the pandemic recovery, the Chamber continues to launch a program entitled Reimagined Resiliency, a series to ensure our businesses can navigate any storm. I would like to recognize any member of our friends in the 27 Northern Chambers of Commerce network joining us today across the Northeast, the Northwest, and of course the North as a whole. Today we're going to be celebrating the pillar of technology integration, which is supported by our good friends at NEOnet. This series particularly will explore various technological integration components available to make your business better. In partnership with NEOnet and others in the digital sphere, we engage our small and medium-sized entrepreneurs to explore what technological adaptations you should be considering and explore what funding is available to support those upgrades. With that, of course, most appropriately, I do want to acknowledge MJ Philo joining us today, who is Acting Executive Director of NEOnet, and thank her for her partnership, of course, in delivering these sessions today. So more importantly, I do want to acknowledge joining me today is Lola Turner, Senior Technician, and Tanya Cloutier, Accounting Technician for MNP, who will guide us through QuickBooks Online. And we're very pleased to have you join us today. And so with that, I will certainly turn it over to Lola, who will be facilitating our presentation today, and look forward to seeing you during the Q&A portion of our presentation. So Lola, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Cameron, for inviting us to do this today. Myself and my colleague Tanya are very pleased to be here. What we're going to be doing for you today is a quick overview of QuickBooks Online with some data transfer. This is more along the lines of somebody that is either just new to QuickBooks Online, or how we term it in-house is QBO. And so we're going to go through a number of topics that we're not going to go very in depth, but it should give you a good working start to using QBO. So I'd like to start the presentation now. I believe that there are slides available as well, Cameron, and
that's correct, yes, and we can see what's on your screen this time. So
perfect.
Good.
So just a quick introduction to myself and my colleague. We both have a number of years of bookkeeping experience on a wide variety of topics. We are both QBO certified as pro advisors, and we look forward to showing you some of the topics that QBO can do. I have a number of slides that we provided, but we'll also be going into the sample company to see where a lot of these topics actually are generated from. So assuming that you're a new QBO user or you haven't started QBO yet, there are a number of platforms that we regularly do a data transfer from, and that would be Desktop or Sage 50. And those are the two most common that we deal with. So we will go through, the slides are step by step. I won't be reading them verbatim, but we will give you some extra information on those as we proceed. Brief introduction to QBO Online and the subscriptions that are available. Some navigating tools within the program, the setup of chart of accounts, customer bases, product bases, a little bit on payroll, and a few tips and tricks as we go along. So this would be the first section of converting desktop to online. Within QBO Desktop, there is an actual migration tool. Before you migrate anything, it's always suggested that you do a backup, just because data integrity can always be an issue, especially if there happens to be anything to do with a power surge or a brownout while you're actually transferring data. So it's always best to have a backup. Also, when you're doing any transfers of data, it's always recommended that your reconciliations are done in advance and that you have printed copies of your trial balances, AR, accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll, and any other tax issues or accounts that you would like to confirm the balances for. So QBO from desktop to QBO is a fairly simple transfer because it is the same platform. It is an Intuit product. So they make the transition a rather easier. You have 60 days from the time that you actually have the QBO subscription to the time where you actually activate that subscription. The only other thing about QBO would be the fact that payroll transfer does not happen when you do the transfer. So you always need to make sure that you still have access to your previous program, especially when it comes to this time of year with year end and T4s. It doesn't mean that you can't transfer that information. You can. It's just you don't have the details that you would have in the original program. So I'm rolling through these slides because they are step by step. And I'm sure that the slide deck will help you with that. The other option that we have is a Sage transfer, which is a bit trickier with the migration. You're allowed to have 2 years worth of data transferred when you transfer Sage to QuickBooks Online. That data migration is free of charge. Anything that you want above that there is a cost depending on the amount of data. That is something that you have to contact the helpline for, because the migration costs are different client to client. Sage is a little bit more difficult when you're transferring because the platforms obviously are not the same. QBO Online actually has a data migrator, which will do most of the work for you, but you do have to make sure that you do all the setup in advance. With Sage, if you're transferring to a QBO Online program, it is important that there be nothing in the QBO before the migration. If there is, you will have duplicates of everything, and so certain components will not transfer because there is data there. Specifically, payroll becomes problematic. Again, if you're going to be doing a conversion, it is always best to make sure that you have a backup. For Sage, it's important to check your data integrity, which is done through step 3, where you go to the maintenance tab, check your data integrity, and any unbalanced issues should be taken care of before migration. Any linked accounts in Sage will not be linked when you transfer to QBO. And also, I would suggest strongly that you make sure that you have all of your data printed out as payroll, again, does not transfer entry for entry. It will transfer an amount, but it will not transfer the data in detail. Data migration or the data switcher will do most of the work for you once you have gone through all the steps to prepare your file for transfer. And what happens is normally you will receive an email 24 to 72 hours after you've submitted the file for transfer. And they will tell you that you will now be able to log into and sign into QBO and begin using the program. There's an alternative to the Sage, is you can also export everything into an Excel format in a CSV file, and you can upload your lists into your QBO. Those lists would be accounts receivable, accounts payable, customer listing, product listings. It will not transfer your employee listing, so that you would have to enter manually. But this is an alternative way than using a data switcher. So we're going to start our actual introduction to QBO. And there are various subscription levels with QBO, dependent on what you need. They have very simplistic ones, and then they have the more complex, depending on how your company does business. What is nice about QBO is it is cloud-based. So you do not need a server, any expensive equipment. It actually has the ability to bring in mobile apps into the program, allows you multiple user and multiple settings of those users. It is real time. So whatever you enter is actually visible across the board to all users immediately. And you don't have to update or buy new programming, as it is updated behind the scenes on a regular basis by Quickbooks Online or Intuit. So we're going to go through quickly some of the different plans that QBO offers. They have an easy start, which is something that is for a very basic business. An example of that would be if you had a summer student starting a lawn care business, where they aren't going to do a lot of invoicing, but they're going to do collecting. They have expenses that they have to pay. It's very much more like a sole proprietorship or private owner based, less so of an incorporation. You have the essentials, which usually covers most small to medium-sized business enterprises. It has a very wide range of applications that work for a day-to-day bookkeeping and accounting system. The difference between the essential and the plus would be the capability for budgeting and inventory. So the plus is where you absolutely need to keep track of products and inventory in your business. And that would be the main reason to be under the plus subscription. They all have different costings per month, and Intuit often has different sales or discounts. And discounts are available usually for certain time frames, and the discounts are only available during the first 30 days of a subscription. So it's very important, if you want to take advantage of lower pricing, that be looked at during the setup. Okay, so we're going to go into some of the navigating of QuickBooks Online. So assuming that you've chosen your product and you've created your password and your username, you would now be able to sign into your programming. So I'm going to switch screens because although I like the slides, I'm a visual learner. So I actually like to see where all of these things are. So we're going to switch you over to a sample company, and that sample company you can access as well. I believe that if you Google sample company QBO, you would actually be able to get into a sample program, and you could actually navigate through it and do all kinds of transactions and make yourself more familiar with the programming. And the nice thing about it is none of these changes are permanent. Every time you log in, it resets itself. So we're going to show you a sample company. So Cameron, if you can't see our sample company, please let me know.
I can, but that's not what you asked for, but I can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So this is what QBO looks like when you start it up. We have up in the corner our help menu, which will give you the ability to ask general questions, and it will give you as much guidance as you can. Intuit is very proactive online as well. So if you don't find what you're looking for in the help menu, I always suggest you Google, because Intuit has a number of platforms that will support answers to different questions with regards to how to do something on the program. So your help menu, of course, is one important part. This little icon over here is called a gear icon, and that becomes one of your best friends in this program. So your gear icon will open up a number of different options for you. QuickBooks Online has always two ways to enter or to get to anything on the system. This is one way, and as you navigate through, I'm sure you'll learn more, but this is going to be your first stop when you open your online. And that is your account settings. Now, every business is going to be specific. So your account settings are going to be unique to yourself. But we're going to go through some of the general stops. Your company name, of course. And your business number, your legal name, and your business number. Business number is nice to have in here because it is your CRA number, and it will generate to your payroll and your HST reports. So it's always suggested that you add it. If you want to edit anything, the pencils in the corners will open up and allow you to do any entries, any alterations that you need to be done. So this one does not have the company name in here. We could fill that in as well as the business number, and then you would save. And as we open these up, you can see that there's more options. Sole proprietorship versus corporations, non-for-profits, and other options. That is more, if you're not certain, I would contact your accountant or your bookkeeper, might know, but it's suggested that you choose the right one. Information that will be processed into your invoices, as well as your any other kind of information that you're going to print from QBO. Address, obviously the same sort of thing, and communication. So we're going to go into the next section. So sales. This one is more in depth, and this is where you actually start to determine how your company is going to look and the customize is your first stop. I'm not sure if this lets, I don't think the company file lets us customize. This is where you would be adding your logos. Any kind of templates that you had in Sage you'd be able to recreate here because the templates would not follow you. We also have the sales forms. These will be individual to your company, of course. These are the general ones that most turn on, the customized tracking numbers for invoices. If you have classifications, different tax rates, you would be turning these on. And they're just a toggle switch, so it's off and on. If you are collecting, and some companies do this, or you have a payment up front, you would have your deposits on. If you collect discount, if you apply discounts to customer invoicing, that would be also turned on. Anytime you make any changes in here, you would hit save. Your products and invoices, I'll open that up. And that gives you, this is specific to inventory. If you don't have the plus, this will not help. This section will not be very helpful. It has to do with your SKUs and what your products and services are. These two might be helpful on regular invoices for tracking quantities or invoice, and the inventory again is a part of the plus package.
Lola, may I just interject very quickly? Is there any possibility of you just magnifying or blowing up the screen just a touch for the those joining on a smaller screen?
Sure, I can try.
Okay. Just a general consensus in the chat box if that's better for Barry or Monica or anybody else. But for me, Lola, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem. So we're going to go to invoicing. So you can do multiple or single invoicing, and this is where you do your changes. Anytime you want to change anything with regards to how the sales look, this is where you would do this. Reminders. So you can have yourself automated where you can invoice and remind yourself that you have to invoice, or you can remind a client on an automated invoicing system. You have online delivery as well. We're going to go through expenses now. So these are bills and your purchase forms. Purchase orders may or may not be something that you wish to use, so you could choose to turn them off. Purchase orders can be translated into bills if that's something that you use for your regular business. These are default readings. You can change these. And the ability to email to clients as well. So that is something you may or may not want to turn on. When you have the email turned on to clients, I want to make you aware of the fact that the possibility of anytime you make a change or an alteration to anything, that will be emailed out as well, unless you specifically click on a box that I will show you later to stop that. Otherwise, everything that anytime there's a change made, the email will be sent out. This is for timesheets if you activate payroll. And this is the last section in this account setup, but one of the more important ones. It actually identifies your fiscal year, your year end, what kind of accounting you're using, This is a default for taxes. Exclusive of tax would mean that tax is not used in the amount that you enter into the expense or invoice, and that the tax will be added after. Inclusive means, of course, all in, so that would be tax and basic amount. Out of scope is something where you don't want tax applied. Specifically, bank charges and insurance are usually generally out of scope. Again, you can change your tax rating here to match how your business is operated. Your chart of accounts. This is an important first step. Coming from an accounting background, I like to see the numbers activated. Not everybody uses that. You can generate your discount accounts, so you can actually set which account it's going to be flowed into, any markups, any billables. This is for if you are if you have a business where you are purchasing stuff that you want applied to invoices. This is where you would be using billable invoice and billable expenses. Classes and tracking. It's a little bit more complex bookkeeping when you're having classes. So a class would be considered to be an equivalent of a department. Your automation. So if you want to pre-fill from a previous entry, usually by name of a supplier or a vendor, automatically applying credits. This is turned on, but I normally turn this off. And the reason that I do this is because when you actually apply, leave the automation on, it will apply it to the latest or the oldest transaction. It may not be exactly where you want it applied. So I prefer to turn that option off so that I actually have control of where the credit is being applied against. Automatic bill payment. I also like to turn that one off because sometimes you wish to change accounts, or you're doing things a little bit differently. You're not doing all the transactions the same way. And as long as you have an automation, it will assume that everything stays the same, and you will have to go in and manually do changes. It likes it when it doesn't like it when I don't save my changes. For projects, it will do projects. You can turn it off or on if you're interested in that sort of aspect. Language as well can be altered if you choose to have another language. Currency is preset at Canadian dollars, but it can do multi-currency. These are formatting options. I like to make sure that the warning for the doubles of anything is on. It's just as a precaution. The sign in and sign out, that is also a matter of choice. It will close after this time period is up. I personally use 1 hour. I also like to turn on the journal entry, use duplicate numbers, just as a safeguard. And that would be all the setups that you're going to be looking at when you're doing your initial first entry into QBO. It's a lot of information, but I presume that we did a lot of walkthrough on that on the slides. So I'm hoping that that will help you as we navigate through. The next step would be your manager of users. QuickBooks Online allows you to add a user. When you initially start up your programming, you will have your name will be here as being the primary. And if you need to add payroll or admin, This gives you the options of how much access you're going to be providing somebody else that is going to be using the programming. QuickBooks Online, you can actually sign in anywhere from any device. So it doesn't have to be a desktop, doesn't have to be desktop, doesn't have to be PC, it can be Mac. And seeing that it's cloud-based, you can access anywhere. So you don't even have to be in the same office or in the same city to access your accounting. So your users, you will be setting up according to what specifications and what restrictions that you want each user to see. An example with that would be a payroll clerk would only be able to see payroll, do entries, but not do deletions. You can set all of that up with your users. The accounting firm one is the one that you would set up and send an invitation to your accountant. So you would send it through an email, you would invite them, they would accept it, and then they would be able to access your accounting program online for year ends, T4s, whatever you contract them to do. Customized forms and styles. We couldn't get it through to that on the other side. I'm hoping maybe this side they will let us see a little bit of it. So this will allow you to import different things. Well, also when you're not in the sample company, you'll be able to import your logos and stylize your own stationery, invoices, expenses to look the way you want it to look. This is probably the last step, but probably the most important step is your chart of accounts. Once you've done your migration, this is where you want to go. You want to go and make sure that all of your accounts properly imported and that the balances that you expected are in there. Account history will show you anything that's happened in that account. Should you decide that you need to make changes to a name or how it's been designated, especially Sage transferred to a QBO. Sage does not allow credit cards to be classified as credit cards. They are bank. So you would be changing the classifications. So I want to see if I have a credit card on this listing. Here we go. So I would, there's your account type. And you have a number to pick from. You could have an accounts receivable, a bank, a credit card. Sage does not always allow you to set up credit cards per se, but QBO will. And then you have your description. You're also allowed sub accounts should you actually have need of them. You can default your tax code. So if you know that something is always going to be have HST on it, or is always going to be exempt, like insurance, then you would set up your default, and then you would save and close. Your detail type, this one is credit card, so it's not going to allow me to look at the other ones, but categorize should give us a wide variety. So these are some of the details that you can actually set your account to. Anytime you have, your listing will depend on how you set up this first title. The titles change according to these listings. You have your regulars as assets. QBO has property, building, and equipment as a fixed asset account. So it's titled a little bit differently if you're looking for it. property, plant, and equipment, rather than a fixed asset account. And then it gives you descriptions. Of course, you would go through your details, and you would name your accounts. You can add new accounts through here. So if there's something there that you want to add, your tab is up at the top. And you would go through this to make sure that all your accounts are properly coded with the type, the detail that your expectations are, plus your balances. And that would be your first stop after you've finished importing all of your information. We're going to go through the lists next fairly quickly. So you have all lists, which is basically going to give you every possible list that there is in this programming. Products and services would be for anybody doing inventory. So that's going to give you the ability to track. You would set up your SKUs, so on and so forth, and that is a plus option only. Your recurring transactions, when you're transferring Sage to QBO, recurring transactions do not follow you, so you will have to reset them up. And it's a basic journal entry, so you would go to new, and you would pick what kind of transaction it is that you want to have happen. And then you would proceed to, we're going to look at this one, and you would proceed to do a normal transaction, and at the bottom of any of the screens, you would see a more or make recurring, and you'd click on that, and then it would enter into this listing. We have attachments. We can attach things through this screen here, or we can attach things through the actual invoice or expense. There's always two ways to do an attachment in QBO. So your attachments would basically be taking any kind of scanned document that you have, click on attachment. It's going to ask you to drag it here. And then now you would have your backup information for any kind of transaction that you want to process, which is actually a very nice feature. You don't have to go looking as far for things. They're a little bit more at your fingertips. You can customize fields. A lot of the customized fields, again, are a plus option, especially when it comes to invoicing, estimates, and that sort of thing. This is where you can go into multi-currency. Not everybody has need for this, but it is an option. You can add or change currency as you need it. Tags is a descriptor, and you can use them as you want to give more details into each transaction. Other tools, importing data. That is if you have lists of certain items that you want brought in. This is the second way to actually import from Sage into QBO. So you'd be able to import data like through these sections. So this is option 2 for a Sage import. You can also import data from different, it's using migrations. So there are your step-by-steps. QBO likes to do everything with double options. So these are secondary options to some of the things that we've already presented. You can export data as well, and that's a lot of times that's already in some of the invoices and expenses. You can export those into Excel, but these also give you some of your financial options to export. And Reconcile is here. but Reconcile is also somewhere else when you're doing your bank reconciliations. Anytime you have a new module that you haven't used before, you will see messages like, let's get started, let's do this. You have to click on that first to be able to see what's in behind it. So your reconciliations always are going to be beginning date, ending date, and your amounts. And you would use this for bank accounts, credit cards, just on a monthly basis to make sure everything is in check. Budgeting, again, is a plus option. And then you have your audit login, which not a lot of people use. We do, because it does tell us where the transactions happened, who did the transactions. So if you're having multiple users, it will tell you who did what when, and who did what changes. So we'll give you a description of what that transaction was and who did it. So that is what our gear icon does. Now, if we're going to go into our dashboard, we're going to go on the left browser. Our dashboard can be set up in a number of ways. It can either give you the shortcuts. It can also be customized so that it will give you a view of money in, money out, employee listings. This is a very customizable screen for quick information on a day-to-day basis without having to go in through modules to determine all of that. So this is very specific. It can be very specific to your needs. This one is very generic, unfortunately. Our banking. Okay, this is what we call a bank feed. And a bank feed needs to be set up. And I believe that I have a slide for that. Bank feeds are basically what you will get from your banking institution on a monthly basis. This is time sensitive, so as it flows through your bank, it will be uploaded into your QuickBooks Online. And from here, you can categorize wherever you want transactions to be posted to. And then it'll flow into your reconciliation. QuickBooks does a thing called action. And that action will, if it finds a comparable or match, as we put it, it will change this to match of a transaction that has the same date and the same amount. It will try to match that transaction for you. It is always good to double check a match, because although the system gets smarter as you use it and becomes more familiar with the transactions flowing through it, it will try to assist you to do more matches. It is not uncommon that you have two different transactions that will flow through on approximately the same date with the same amount, and it will try to flow it into one account rather than possibility of it being two different accounts. So it is something that is very handy and does help and reduces time, but still has to be monitored with regards to where the transactions are going. It is very easy to fall into the trap of doing add, or match. This is where a lot of the complications happen with the bank feed. Also, if you happen to lose your bank feed, I'm looking for, it will make duplicate entries. And those duplicate entries will have to be handled through exclusion. So I'm going to go here, just so you see. This is how you would set up your account so that it will find it for you. When you're looking for actual connection, this is where you have to actually connect your bank to your QBO. So again, you would be going to you want to link an account. It will ask you what banking institution. You will have to use your user information and password specifically for the bank, not for QBO. So whatever your banking username and password would be, you would select your institution, and then it would be asking you for your banking login and username to be able to establish a link. It also will ask you how long of a timeline you wish to bring the information in for. And sometimes there is an overlap. And if that should occur, you can basically click the transactions that you know you've already dealt with, and you can exclude. And what that does is remove them from the listing so that you will not address them on for a second time, and you will not end up doing duplicate entries. If you should make a mistake and you've put the wrong thing in here, there's always an undo. And I'm seeing a lovely match. So we're going to look at that. And this tells me that it was an expense. You can click anywhere on this line that you wish. Once you click the match, it goes into your accounts. It goes into your reconciliation. If you want further, if you're not satisfied with this and you think there are further information, you can always find another match. You can categorize it and put it where you want it. So there are a lot of options in here with regards to handling your transactions. Banking rules. These are fun. They're helpful as long as they remain the same. This one does not allow, let's see if it's gonna let me. Wonderful. So if I have insurance, that comes out every month from the same provider. So I would say that would be money out from my checking account. It includes all, description. I can give it a descriptor by amount. I can give it a descriptor by bank text. So if I know that bank text always comes in and says insurance, then I can make it identify by the text. Assign it to an expense account. And then I would say. And what would happen with that was every time that the bank feed comes in, it would tell me that there is a rule. And I would be able to match according to the rule. And this.
Apologies for the interruption. Just a quick question. Should we ask questions if they're relevant to what you're talking about now, or do we want to save all questions for the end?
Absolutely. I believe Tanya is answering questions as we're going along.
Oh, look at that. You've got a system. I will stay out of it.
Not a problem. And we have a second match, which is what something that I was speaking to you about earlier. So this is an example of what happens when the bank finds two things with the same amount. And you would have to go in here and you would have to specify which one you want to deal with. And if you're not satisfied with where they're putting it in, then you would categorize and work from there and add save. So that's your bank feed and your bank rules. Sales. So we have tabs across the top. Gives you an overview of sales, all your sales. So overview will give you some information. And this is the sort of information that you can actually bring to your dashboard. This is a listing of all sales made. This one can be, this one is specific by date, but you can change how you look at these. Invoices, again. And you can receive payment here, or you can receive payment here. And we will go into this new section in, momentarily. So your invoices basically look like standard invoicing on QBO. When you do a printout, it will actually put your customization onto the or an email. It'll do the customization, but you do not see it when you're actually doing the entering. Customers, now each customer has to be set up. Your customer list will transfer with you. If you happen to make a spelling mistake, you can actually merge customers, which is nice. And it will carry the balance forward with you. But you can set up your customer name, the billing address, any notes account, any type of payments associated with it, tax information. If you have an opening balance, which is very important if you're migrating, and the opening balance does not migrate with it, this is where you can make the correction for your customer accounts. And I'm going to show you an invoice while we're here. Oh, let's look what, see, Kathy has to. The email option obviously is not set up. If you automated your email options to send invoices, you would see the client's email information here. If you have it and it's there and you want to make alterations, but you don't want to send another copy to the client, this is where it's very important to click the send later. If you don't, then the email will go out indicating that there was alterations to this document. Very standard, what product, which is usually, if you have products set up in inventory, this is where they will be. If you don't have products set up, your account information or your customer information will be there. Descriptions, quantities, these are also customizable. This is all of the options that are open, but these can also be edited so that it's a little bit cleaner if you don't need all of this open, or you're not going to use it, especially classifications. If you're not going to use it, all of these can be customized for the look that you want. Exclusive of tax, and that's because we set it that way. You can change it here if you decide that you want inclusive this specific time. If you're finding that you're doing this an awful lot, you can go back into your accounting settings and actually change exclusive to inclusive. It'll depend on how you start processing your invoices, and you will learn what's more comfortable for you as you go along. Again, you have the option of the attachment, which is always nice. For invoicing, for those that are going to for those of you that are going to use estimates, an estimate can change into an invoice without having to duplicate the invoice. Receive payment, that is how you actually record the payment of an invoice. So again, once you choose your customer, you basically, all open invoices are there and accessible. You would click on the one that you want. You would put the payment in as the amount you received, and then you would save and close. If you were doing multiples, you can save and new, and it will give you the next payment. This is nice when you're doing multiple transactions at the same time. Anytime you see an arrow, there's always a drop-down box. with other options. When you receive payment, for those of you that are Sage users, unless you have a clearing account set up, you will not be doing the deposits. So your cash flow will show you money in and money out. Again, a lot of the times this information is brought up to the dashboard. Your expenses. This is one way in which you can enter bills. There's a print check option on this one as well. So this will allow you to enter your bill. Allows you to pay your checks, pay by checks. Also gives you a supplier tab where you can add new suppliers, very similar to the customers. And again, down at the bottom is the part if you have to make any adjustments to your information that is being migrated. That is where you would be looking for that. Projects, for those of you that will use that, that is more of an in-depth topic, and we will probably have to spend a lot more time on that one. But it is available and you can set them up. Payroll will not open in the sample company, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back to our slides over here. And an overview of payroll. So payroll allows you to do a number of different things. You would have to set up your employees and their taxes. And it's when you it doesn't come with your subscription. So if you're planning on using payroll with QBO, that is a separate cost. And I believe they just changed the costs on me. They used to be $20 a month plus $3 per employee transaction. I believe now the prices have been altered. So that's something that you would definitely want to check. It's as easy as start payroll. So you click on your payroll module where we were. You start your payroll and then you start adding your employees. And it is a drop-down menu. So you would add the employee name. There are pencils on that screen as well where you would add the taxes, if there's how they're being paid, hourly salary, if there's the, any kind of deductions for benefit plans. It's unfortunate that they don't let us look into it. I'm going to go back, jump back into my company. Your reporting center. This is where all your information flows. As if you notice, there's a favorite section. Anything that you star will be moved up here for easy access. But there are a multiple number of different reports that you can get. They're all categorized. So who I owe, your overview ones, your balance sheets, profit and loss, anything that you would use on a regular basis that you want to see, you would star, move it up to the top, and then that way it's so much easier to access. I don't know how many of you use multiple screens, but we do. And there's a nifty little trick to use multiple screens on here. So if you wanted to open a balance sheet and a profit and loss to be able to see what was going on, you would right click and you would open in a new tab. And that allows you to open something different in your new tab, and then you'd be able to bring it over to your other screen. So you can open multiple screens and have different views of the company. It will do up to 3 without much problem. 2 is better to have only 2 tabs open. 3, after 3, the program I find becomes very sluggish. So I usually use 2, 3 on occasion. You can also customize your reports. So if there, sorry. So if there's a report here that you want to always call upon, you can customize it and you can save it so that you can do this every month. And you can customize your reports for specific topics. So your customization is in your standard. And your customization is up here. And it allows you a bunch of different drop downs to be able to use whatever you need for whatever period. Anytime you make a change, make sure you run report. Taxes. There's a lot in here. Manage your taxes allows you to set up your different tax rates. And you can add a tax rate. If you have group rates. So your agency would be Canada Revenue, obviously. And this sets up when your quarters start, what your frequency of filing is, and the method of accounting. And you can, when you first start up, make sure that you set this section up so that your reporting will be accurate according to what your needs are. Taxes also does payroll. It won't show us the payroll, but it will. This one is set up quarterly. So it will give you the report, tell you if it's filed. And when you make the payment, you would make it through here. You would click on pay and it would process the journal entry for you. Payroll is also in here. It also will generate a PD7A, which is your remittance forms for you on the same basis that you set it up for. They have some new payroll options available now with records of employment being able to be submitted online, and the PD7As being able to be submitted to CRA, as well as payment, I believe is coming shortly to be able to pay right from here to the CRA account. Mileage and tracking, that is for somebody that needs this information generated into payroll. And your accounting, which again brings you to your chart of accounts and your reconciliations. So like I said, there's always 2 ways to get to something in QBO. New is my friend. And it gives me all of my basic accounting transactions all in one place. From invoicing to receiving payments, estimates, bills, expenses, bill payments. So if you're more comfortable with bills and bill payments, these are the 2 options you would use together. If you want a one-step, you would use your expense. It does not give you an option of being able to write a check here through expenses. If you wanted to do checks, then you would do bills and bill payments. Any transaction can be made recurring. And you can print any transaction that you wish. Most people miss this line because it's blacked out and we don't always notice it because they don't make it as colorful as our nice green ones, but You'll see that a lot of extras are on the bottom in that black bar. My accountant. It's an interesting option where you can share information with your accountant. So you can transfer information that you want them specifically to see. Once it's set up, once your accountant is set up on your online. And that is a basic run through of our QBO. Now, I'm going to go back and share my slides with you. And there on the slides, we did go a walkthrough through creating invoices, and we did do the setup of bank feeds, and now we're on tips and tricks. The bank rules are step-by-step on the slides. And like I said, bank rules, I like to do that as when I know that the transaction is not going to alter or change. For your LinkedIn accounts, for your bank feed, unposted, they remain unposted until you actually do something with them, whether you add or you match. And like I said, the QBO will always try to match something for you that has already been inputted into the system. You just have to be very cautious with regards to where it wants to put it, because it does not know your accounting system as well as you do. When you actually go through your banking history, you will often see C's and R's. C's means it's cleared the bank, and R means it's reconciled. And that's the normal setup for a bank feed. And our troubleshooting the bank feed would be duplicates, as we talked about, where we would be doing exclusions. Attaching documents, which is wonderful, our little paper clip, or we can do that as well through the gear. These are nice to have. These are shortcut keys. I don't have a lot of these memorized myself, but they do open a number of windows quickly if you have the memory for all the different keystrokes. So I did add them. I know a lot of people are a lot quicker navigating through the system using these. Like I said, I like new and gear icon. Our search bar, and that was one thing we didn't touch upon. So that would be the magnifying glass up on the top right corner of your program. And what that does is allow you to see what the most recent transactions that were processed are. And should you want to look at something specific and you know that you had a $1,200 or $1,200-ish transaction that you're looking for, but you can't find, if you punch in 1,200 at the top, it will generate anything that has a 12 in it. If you want $1,200 specifically, then the more specific you are with the number, the faster the system will find it for you. There are advanced searches, and that would be the little blue section at the bottom. That gives you more options to filter with regards to amounts, customer. It's a great little tool if you happen to looking for something and you don't quite recall where it went or what time frame it was in. I use it quite often, actually. And you have exporting and importing of data into Excel. Most of your financial statements can be exported into Excel. Most of your data, if it has an import or an export, will be in the top right corner of that transaction to be able to allow you to choose that option. And that's the importing. And that importing usually happens with regards to bank statements. If you don't decide to use the bank feed, but you'd still like to import your information at the end of the month when you get your bank statement, This would be a way to do that. You'd be able to import the bank statement information into QBO to be able to start your reconciliation. Void versus delete. This is always a topic that's asked often. Voiding basically gives you a zero transaction. So you will still see this transaction, but it will be zeroed out. So basically it reverses, makes a reverse journal entry of whatever it is that you wanted removed. When you delete something, it's basically gone. The only place that you will see it is on the audit log. It will tell you who deleted it. Depending on which module it is, it will give you details of what the transaction was, but it is no longer in your active bookkeeping. How to open 2 or more companies. Okay, well, QBO, first off, does not support more than 1 company per subscription. So if you want to open 2 or more companies, means you have 2 subscriptions. QBO works best on Chrome and Firefox. So you can either open one in one browser and one in another, or you can open one company in normal Chrome, and you can open the second company in incognito. And we are at the questions. So I believe Tanya's been answering a lot of the questions as they're coming through on the chat line. But if you want to open your mics and specifically ask questions, we'd be more than happy to hear from
Sorry, it's hard to locate my mute button after that, but thank you very, very much, Lola. That was an excellent and high level, well, actually, I shouldn't even say high level. It was also very in-depth overview of how to use QuickBooks Online. So at this point, obviously, and I have to extend a special appreciation to Tanya, who's been madly typing away at the questions in the chat box there. So at this point, what we'll do is welcome anybody who wanted to ask a quick question, sort of verbally or out loud. You're more than welcome to indicate so in the chat box, and we can move to you and unmute yourself and ask your question. Otherwise, certainly welcome feedback or appreciation posts. Thank you, Julie and Monica, as well as Curtis from Mind Connect. Beyond that, we did want to encourage anybody, if you do have any questions, you're certainly welcome to filter them through. I believe Tanya has indicated her email in the chat box as well. We will be sending a recording of this particular presentation out just after it's processing, so do look for your inbox. It'll likely come in the early afternoon. And thanks to Lola and Tanya, we'll also be sharing the slideshow for your referencing as well. So at this point, I just wanted to turn the virtual floor over to MJ Philo, who's joining us from NEOnet, one of our pillar support partners, my apologies, for our technology integration component. So MJ, I leave it to you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending this excellent session. It was very informative, even for myself. Great job, everybody. Just wanted to say just how much we are appreciative of the Chamber and our partnership for this Reimagined Resiliency series. As somebody who deals with small businesses adopting technology every day, we truly believe that new technology or enhanced technology will help assist small businesses with their operations, helping their staff as well as their consumers. We also do have our Business Technology Improvement Fund that is available. There is a bit of a wait list at the present time, but if you are interested in discussing on how some funding can help with your business, I will add my contact information in the chat and you can give me a call.
Appreciate that, MJ. And yes, certainly I would encourage anybody to take advantage of any funding that's provided by our friends at NEOnet. It's certainly a benefit, and the Chamber does work hard to get those funds through NEOnet as well, through FedNor within our community. So please, if you are a business owner or organization that qualify, do take advantage of those. MJ is excellent and will certainly help to funnel those funds towards your bank accounts, which you now can fully manage, thanks to Lola and Tanya. So beyond that, I did want to extend a special thank you to everybody who's joining us. We will share MJ's contacts within our after our post-event email. Beyond that, I just wanted to encourage you. So this afternoon, in fact, we are hosting a session on advanced Canva workshop for those marketing enthusiasts. So if you are interested, you're more than welcome to visit our website, www.timmins.on.ca. You'll find the free registrations at that event this afternoon. We also have opened up our Nova Business Award nomination. So I encourage anybody, if you know a business, your clients, a favorite place to visit, give them a nomination. It's really and truly a great way to, especially now, celebrate our business community. And you can do so by visiting our website as well. At this time, final thanks to NEOnet, of course, our pillar sponsor for technology adaptation and improvements, to Lola Turner and Tanya Cloutier, who is in the background but furiously typing away there. We'll be sharing her contact information as well. Thank you to MNP, to our presenters today, and to all of you for attending. There's Tanya. Well done. And thank you all so much. We encourage you to continue reaching out to your chambers, especially across the 27 Northern Chambers of Commerce. Find one in your community. We're all here to help. With that, be safe, be well. I wish you all the best of the holiday season. Take care.